the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kate, may we have a roll call, please?
Gary Cunningham.
Here.
Patty Crowan.
Here.
Marie McFarland.
Here.
Sean Keir.
Here.
Miles Schlesinger.
Here.
Doug Bryson is absent. And Steve Griffiths.
Here. Do we have any agenda changes or revisions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would ask that you reverse the order of items 9 and 10 on the agenda.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for our December 4th meeting, which we received from Kate earlier this week?
I motion to approve the minutes from our December 4th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, we have no final orders this evening, no public hearings, no old business, and we do have a bit of new business. Richard, would you like to present that?
Yes, you've got a memo from staff about the year in review, what's been accomplished in the past year by the Planning Commission. And it's four pages long, so there's a lot of things in here. For zoning ordinance amendments, working on the sign code, did that in November. Affordable and workforce housing amendments, temporary emergency operations uses, and of course with the vacation rental dwellings, we got new VRD regulations limiting occupancy levels and also putting a cap on the number of VRDs allowed in zones. And for everyone to know, there at this time there are 583 VRDs in the city, and they are 1.5 zone. We've reached the cap of 194, and we have a waiting list of about 7. In Rhodes End, we have 196 approved licenses and 4 pending for a total of 200. The cap is 90 in Rhodes End, so that will be a long time before we get down to the cap. But 10 have fallen out since we put the limit in. 150 VRDs in commercial zones, and in other residential zones we have 35. I'm sorry. You approved the conditional use permit for the St. James Santiago School Edition at the St. James Episcopal Church. And that's under construction, coming along quite well. You also approved Phase 4 of the Lincoln Palisades PUD, or Planned Unit Development. That is combined with Phase 3, that adds 23 new home sites. We worked on the Imagine Lincoln City Community Visiting Program, which the City Council has accepted. Working on the Villages at Cascade Head preliminary master plan, and that's an ongoing project, and we should have that for the commission early next year. Also, the Coastal Resilience Project, the Tsunami Evacuation Facilities Improvement Plan, also known as the TFIP, working with the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development and the Department of Geology and Mineral Industries on a resilience project. And a part of that is the Beat the Wave project that we've been having meetings on. We'll have another one coming up, the last one coming up Thursday night. As far as development activity in the city, the memo says we've taken in 62 building permits for houses. Actually, it's now 63. We took another one in today. And to give an idea of the order of magnitude, before the housing boom, we were doing 40 or 50 new houses a year. During the boom, it maxed out at about 145. And then during the recession, we were having fewer than 20 a year for a number of years. And last year we did 66, this year 63 so far, probably as far as we'll go. I think in 2016, I think we did about 80, so we have a fair number of homes being built. Starfish Motel, 51-unit expansion is underway. Samaritan North Lincoln Hospital under construction, should be finished in 2020. There's a ceremonial groundbreaking for the new police station, and we've issued the building permit for that. And there's been a self-storage development on East Owls Lake Road that is almost finished. 328 storage units in that. And as I mentioned, the St. James Santiago's school building is underway. Then there's the Taft High School batting practice building. O'Reilly's Auto Parts is planning to build a building on Highway 101 at Northeast 22nd. Cultural Center has gotten site plan approval for improvements to their grounds and their parking lot. St. Augustine Church has an addition and remodeling project. North Lincoln Fire District, and they've applied for their building permit for renovations to the North Station in the coming year. The Knott Ransom Apartments on West Owls Lake Boulevard are almost done. Coho Inn's doing a 4-unit expansion, and there's more things coming. As far as things coming up for next year, commercial design standards should be finalized. Update of the city's comprehensive plan, update of the village's Cascade Head preliminary master plan, new regulations implementing the Nelscott Gap and Villages neighborhood plans, and completion of the coastal resiliency project. And also, obviously, next year you'll have a new planning director beginning in March. Though she's been hired, and actually she'll start work for the city on January 2nd, but will take over as planning director when I retire. And then we should be getting a new senior planner to fill the vacancy left by Deb's impending departure. So that just sort of ran through the thing on highlighting things. I don't know if you want to discuss any of these things or talk about where we're going, where we're going.
Any questions from the commissioners? I have one question. The implementation of the Nelscott Gap, what type of implementation for that? What's needed there?
Essentially creating new zoning regulations for the Nelscott Gap area, not for Nelscott itself,
Right.
Not for the strip area and seaward of that, but the area that we did the planning for, the neighborhood planning for, to the east of the highway, from 19th down to
Foothills Boulevard area.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Foothills Boulevard, yes, exactly.
Yes, and I have some bad news. We did not get the $6 million grant to build Foothills Boulevard. I'm waiting to hear kind of a debrief on, how we did, whether it's worth trying again next year, but haven't received that yet. So somebody will let you know when we find out. Also, along with the Nelscott Gap, there are other issues like annexation, because a large part of it is still out in the county, but within our urban growth boundary, and the possibility of establishing a new urban renewal district in that area.
So that work will go hand in hand with our work on the new comprehensive plan or the revisions to it?
It will go parallel.
Parallel, yeah.
Are you sure you are going to get debriefed? Are you sure you will get debriefed on what we could do to enhance our application for a build grant in the future?
Well, they offered that in the email that I got that said we were not funded this year, and I immediately replied and said, yes, I'd be interested in setting up a time to talk about that. So that's as far as it's gone. I'm hoping that they follow through. It might not be with me, but with Richard or Lindsay.
And the funding source for that was the state?
It was a federal program through the Department of Transportation. It's a similar, or basically the same program as what they called Tiger in the past, and there were some other names, but it's very competitive because it is a national program. 2 projects in Oregon did get funding, and one was Coos Bay and one was up in the Columbia River Valley. They both were rail projects, so not something we can necessarily relate to.
Well, thank you for your work on that, and we'll keep our fingers crossed
Right.
we get one in the future, yeah.
Yes.
Any more comments? All right. No planning commission training this evening, and what about future agenda items and next meetings, Richard?
Your January 1st meeting, you've canceled. January 15th meeting, that will be, you'll elect officers, and you'll have a hearing on keeping the requirement for a 14-day notice to surrounding property owners of VRD land use applications. That will also be Lindsay Zabel's first meeting, so I think you've all met her, but you'll get a chance to spend some time with her. So, and one other thing I want to point out is on December 20th, Thursday night at 6 p.m., it'll be the final Coastal Resilience Beat the Wave project meeting, public meeting. It'll be at the Oregon Coast Community College from 6 to 8 Thursday.
Great.
Marie was at our meeting on Monday night. Do you want to share anything about that?
It was well attended. I think there were about 40 people, and there were a lot of questions. And I think that overall it went really well. And talking with some of the people afterwards, it stirred a lot of other questions that people are starting to talk about. David
Jameson?
Jameson, thank you. Just name disappeared. David Jameson mentioned about the CERT training that's up on, I think it's January 2nd at 6 p.m. And there are several people that talked about being interested in getting in with the CERT training. So I think that that would go really well with the next one too, is to push that, because people were talking about how to get some emergency preparedness. The one thing that I think that she needed to cover a little more is that they never really mention is the fact most people aren't going to be home probably when this happens. And people tend to think that it's about being home. I'm going to be at my home, and my home is safe, or my home I have to move, or my home this happens. She did mention that, which for a change I heard the stress is no cars, probably won't have streets, and so you probably won't be able to drive anywhere, but I think that there needs to be a little more focus on the fact that you might not be at the house.
Mm-hmm.
And
Some of your supplies in your car.
yeah, one of the ladies mentioned that. She said, I carry supplies. Should I leave my supplies in my car, or should I have them only in my house? And Meg mentioned that, you know, it's probably good to have them in both places. The other thing that was that kind of caught my attention, one woman said, well, I do a lot of hiking. And she said, and if I'm down in Newport, how do I get back here? And, you know, it was question is, should I have a compass? Or there was a kind of a question of how do I get back? Do I have a topography type map on my person? She mentioned about having one of the little disposable blankets and the water purifier in her purse, and that she takes that as an emergency thing along with her everywhere. And her comment to everybody was, be sure you have a good pair of shoes. So, but I think there were some really good questions, and I think Mark's comments, and he added a lot to it, and of course Meg did a really good presentation.
It's good, good.
So
Great.
it was well attended. There were about 40
Yeah, it was.
people.
So one more meeting on the 20th at the community college at 6 o'clock.
Yes, and we have been spreading these out in the neighborhoods, but we do cover the whole city at each one. So if somebody from a neighborhood other than Nell Scott wants to come, hasn't been there yet, they're welcome to come, and they'll hear about their neighborhood as well as the other parts of town.
And there's food and prizes.
And prizes.
Thank you. Anything else, Richard?
No.
All right.
Excuse me. I'm wondering if it's appropriate for us to put on an agenda early on next year for us to start the discussion of tsunami hazard zoning overlay that we mentioned, I think, earlier in the fall. It seems like we're going to have some good information now, some timely information from the Beat the Wave study, and I'd like to see this commission start looking at the potential to have some type of hazard zoning overlay on our vulnerable parts of the city.
Yep, we can do that.
And that'll go in
Plan on doing
parallel
it.
with the comprehensive plan work, probably, yeah.
Everything, right now, everything is parallel to the comprehensive plan work, so, yeah. But that's a part of it, because the comprehensive plan will have a natural hazard section and resilience, so that would be perfectly appropriate for that.
And a new map? It will have a
Right.
new...
Yeah, it'd be a new comprehensive plan map, too.
Great, good. All right. Reports and comments from staff?
I have an unfortunate comment to make, well, unfortunate, also fortunate for the people involved. This is Deb's last meeting. She's retiring, and you won't see her again here, I don't think. So.
Maybe I'll just come for fun
She may
now.
come for fun, or to heckle.
Make public comments.
So.
You're limited to 3 minutes.
But she's had quite a run here. Since I've been here, I think I've had 6 different senior planners, and probably the best hiring decision I've made was hiring Deb. She's just been wonderful. She's not only has she managed some big projects, the walking and biking plan, the Scott Gap plan, Parks and Recreation System plan, Transportation System plan, but she went out and got money for it too, and got grants, and she's been wonderful at getting grants. I got a whole long list of projects that she just major projects that she worked on for site plan review. And people, we don't have hearings on site plan review. It's a public meeting, but it's not televised and that sort of thing. So a lot of people don't realize how much work goes into those and what gets accomplished in them. But she's done a tremendous amount of work on it. Bimart, Samaritan Early Learning Center, Dutch Brothers Coffee, additions to Taft Elementary and Ocean Lake Elementary, additions to the Rusty Truck Brewery, Regatta Park Zebo, addition to the Nazarene Church, the Goodwill Building, the Polvy's Office Building, Lincoln City Food Pantry, 3 phases of the Orr Avenue Apartments over by the new Bimart, the Windward Place Apartments, a mixed-use building in Taft, Taco Bell, Roby's Furniture, Starfish Manor 51-room expansion, Strickland mixed-use building in Macoma, the new Crab Pot building, Anchor Storage, the Not Ransom Apartments, Samaritan North Lincoln Hospital, St. James Santiago School, Lincoln City Police Department building. She's had, that's a pretty good list, but what a lot of people don't know is that we get an application in, and a lot of times it doesn't begin to meet our standards and meet our requirements, and Deb has worked really hard and really strong with people to shape their proposals and bring them into compliance with our standards and actually make them better projects and better for the city. Really, I'm not done, but to summarize everything, I would say, Lincoln City is a better place because Deb has been here. She's just done a fantastic job. Ordinance amendments, flood zone amendments from 2009, natural hazards amendments, clear vision, transportation amendments. She's been working on the design standards project and the TFIP, as I mentioned. She obviously staffed the Planning Commission, but she also staffed the Parks and Recreation Board, the Sustainability Committee. You may not realize how far afield sometimes we go. Deb became a forester and managed the thinning projects in Agnes Creek and Spyglass open spaces. And of course, topping it all off, she was the Oregon chapter of the American Planning Association Planner of the Year this year. So it was a wonderful award. We're quite proud of her. And
Thank you.
so-
Thank you for the
so-
nomination.
And so, as I say, Lincoln City's a better place because Deb has been here. So.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. You've clearly made Lincoln City your own, and I've had the privilege of working with you both as board member with the Parks and Rec Committee and for 4 years now on the Planning Commission, and you really had a significant and positive impact on the quality of our life here in Lincoln City, not only in your day-to-day work in the planning department, like the site plan review meetings. I went to a couple of those, and those are challenging, I'm sure.
Can be.
But in your efforts to get us to address future needs. And as a result, we have a great new Parks and Recreation plan, a new comprehensive transportation plan, and a creative plan to develop the Nelscott Gap, among many of your achievements. We also have the results of the Imagine Lincoln City project, which will guide our efforts to develop a new comprehensive plan for the city. We are going to be benefiting from your hard work for many years to come. And perhaps most significantly, you have succeeded in including the Lincoln City community in the planning process. You have found very creative ways to seek citizen input on where we want new parks and what we would like to see in the parks, how we would like to have the Nelscott Gap developed, where we need to improve pedestrian walkways and access, and how we would like to see Lincoln City develop in the future. So thank you, enjoy your retirement, and it's been a real pleasure to work with you.
Oh, thank you. I've really enjoyed my spending my last 9.5 years of professional life here in Lincoln City. It's been an exciting environment to work in. I find the people are diverse, and yet, you know, there's so much community mindedness, and I think that's really wonderful. And I think you are particularly good examples of that. You have been a unique planning commission in your eagerness to be involved and to do good things for the city and see progress. And so, you know, I think probably all the staff thanks you for that. And of course, you know, I've had a lot of help in the planning department from Richard and Kate and, you know, a couple other assistant planners. Weston now is taking over as the floodplain manager. He just received his certification as a certified floodplain manager after spending a week in school and for that purpose. And we've had Danielle and Timothy Novak. Of course, Danielle Comer was here just for about a year with the VRD program. Timothy Novak now is in Portland working for the planning department there, but was our VRD person and also very involved in sustainability. So, and Kate has just been a person who's kind of, you know, the bedrock of the planning department, I would have to say. So, and she put all this information together. So, I mean, that just goes to show. She's got her finger on the pulse. And of course, you're going to be losing Richard too soon, and of course I'm not going to be the person who's going to be wishing him well and citing all his accomplishments, but that's going to be an even longer list since he's been here twice as long. And so anyway, I just want to say thank you to Lincoln City and to the Planning Commission and to the staff.
Thank you, Deborah. Any further comments from commissioners? Well, I see a cake over there, so I think maybe we should adjourn. The meeting is.
Okay. Like the quick